So I'm going to call the August 26th, 2026 Select Board meeting to order. So in attendance, we have Molly Keegan, Randy Iser, Jason Kostick. I believe David's iPhone 1000 is David Phil, and myself, Amy Parsons. Because we're in a hybrid format this evening, all votes will be taken via roll call vote. Pursuant to Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022 as amended, this meeting is being conducted in a remote format. The public has been given adequate alternative means of access via Zoom, as noted in the posted meeting notice, along with access and participation instructions. As chair, I hereby notify all participants that this meeting is also being recorded by the town through Hadley Media and will be made accessible to the public. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, any person who intends to record or transmit this meeting must inform the chair at this time. It appears that nobody has indicated that they are also recording this meeting. So we're going to be moving on to part 2 here of public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? Okay. Moving on to new business 3.1. Treasurer and collector departments. Who would like to take the reins on this one?
Nate Malloy. I can't see myself, so I'm assuming everyone can hear me.
Yep.
Yeah, this is, there's a vacancy with Kim's retirement or leaving, and there's some, there's been discussion over the years of how to structure these departments, the treasurer and the collector's department. And so I think, with Linda's retirement and Sue possibly retiring, anyways, there's some ideas to, look at a combination of things, whether it's, the departments becoming one, whether there's some parallel staffing structures. And so, the select board has discussed this in executive session. I think it's time, if we want to move forward, to have the discussion here and allows Jennifer and myself to move forward with job descriptions and any, filling of vacancies, which I think is needed. And so, the state had looked at, recommending a few years ago, having one department, one treasurer, collector, and an assistant, and some other staffing, but all within one department. In the document, public files, there's a document that shares different staffing structures of communities in the area. And, I think it's done, there's a few different ways it's done, right? So some are, two separate departments, some are one shared department, some are one department, but, two different positions within those. And so it's really a discussion to have, what do we think makes the most sense for Hadley? Some of the charge for the town was, can we do things that are cost efficient and still provide the service levels and everything that people expect? And so, is that possible with a different restructuring of the departments? So that's really the discussion to have today.
Okay. So does anyone have any thoughts they'd like to share?
Well, my initial thought is that, from what I understand, both the collector and the treasurer's office are both very busy. So if we combine them, will that just make things crazier than they currently are? Or I understand it's not just going to be one person doing everything. But I just want to make sure that we think about all the different aspects of what they do. And I see we have Sue and Dee Dee here who can talk about what they do and advise us as to what they think. So I'll start with that.
I just have a question. So are we thinking that it would be one individual that would be the collector / treasurer, or are we just combining departments?
Yeah, I think that's the question. I think, and looking at area towns, for instance, like Belchertown, Deerfield, even South Hadley is just one person is the collector and treasurer. So it's one person serving both roles. It's basically one department that has two departments folded into it, and then they have assistant collector, treasurer, and then maybe an administrative support position. And so, other towns kind of like, Amherst is bigger, but they will call it one office, but it's really, like two departments. They have a collector, a treasurer, and then an assistant collector, assistant treasurer, and a customer assistant. So, really they have, the oversight of one collector treasurer, but they have two assistants. So, they're still kind of running, I don't want to say parallel departments, but, in essence, right, they're really doing things a little differently with their assistants. I think it's based on the size and volume of what each town has. So typically the larger communities will have separate departments with their own staff, and smaller towns have kind of combined departments or some combination thereof.
Is the current treasurer going to be responsible for dealing with the budget like Linda was doing? Or is that
We're
gonna
not-
get,
Yeah, sorry, Randy. Yeah, no, we're not anticipating that. I mean, some help, but really, we're kind of trying to keep the treasurer's role defined to what typically is a treasurer's role. So not picking up the budget right now or the finance piece, that's coming to myself and Jennifer.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to hear from Dee Dee and Sue.
I guess I'll go first. Right now, I'm feeling not really overwhelmed because I've been able to pick up a lot from where I was leaving off on my items. The only thing is I feel like I do need at least somebody, even part-time, because of course I was full-time because Linda was doing the finance and the budget also. But right now, other than that, I mean, things are going fine for me. But I know that with Susan then retiring, then there's going to be, issues with her department too. So we either need to each department either have, assistants or combined, as, that was one of the other thoughts. But it's, I guess it's up to like you guys, what do you think? But I mean, Susan and I, we know what work is involved in our jobs, so that's the one thing.
When DLS came out, or the DOR came out, it was back in 2013 that they suggested that all collector treasurers positions be combined. It didn't work in a lot of small towns. And now the trend you're seeing, that happened in a lot of the larger cities, but now the trend that you're seeing is they're splitting back out into two departments, and it's primarily because of the reporting. And when I was elected in 2006, the amount of paperwork was probably a third of what I do right now, what I'm required to do right now. So what Nate said was he thought that we might probably keep a full-time collector, a full-time treasurer, and hire an assistant treasurer collector. And that would work fine as long as you have two experienced people in the two top positions. So, I plan on retiring in January, and it's unfortunate that Kim took the job in Wilbraham, because she was just, when she was asking you folks for what the plan was, she was hoping to hear, well, you will slide into the collector's position. And she would still be here now if someone had emailed her and told her that. So at this point, I can tell you from speaking with many, many people at the annual school, when I tested for my certification, I was one of 89 people. And all 89 of us are leaving in the next 3 years. So everybody is looking. So you are going to be hard pressed to find, you're going to be hard pressed to find somebody looking to jump ship. As of right now, you've got, about 4 months and 16 days if you hire somebody that I can train.
But who's counting, Sue?
So I think, one concern I have is when we think about, having a full-time treasurer, full-time collector, and then you get down to an assistant treasurer, assistant collector, or whether it's combined or not. And thinking about the override and where we want to go, I think we definitely believe that there's more opportunity for use of technology and automation to help with some of the more repetitive tasks, even stuffing envelopes and things like that. And from a compensatory standpoint, I'm questioning whether it makes sense to have 2 department heads, right? Or, if we were able to do the combined treasurer collector, and then work on the positions that are more, mid-level, just because it seems like there are a lot of things that don't necessarily lend themselves to, higher level of professionalism, somebody making $90,000 a year. So does it make sense to focus on the support side of it as opposed to the management side of it?
Unfortunately, you need to hire someone new as a collector treasurer. Dee Dee has no experience as a collector, and she's relatively new in the treasurer's position. It's up to you folks. You can do what you want. So.
Well, I appreciate that, Sue, but we just want to, why we want to talk to you guys is to get your input so we can make an appropriate decision. Because to Molly's point, finances are important, but keeping these departments running at top notch is equally or more so important, because if they're not, then the money that we are losing is not going to be, we won't get it back, and we've got to make sure that we can get as much in as possible. So this is not going to be an easy decision, I don't believe, but we just want to pick your guys' brains and, be as honest with us as you can be.
Sure.
I mean, in my situation, when I used to be just part-time assistant treasurer, that's when Linda was just the head treasurer. And I feel that I could use just a part-time person. I don't need a full-time person, because I'm right now capable of doing everything that I've been doing, and I've been keeping up to date and everything with things. And actually today I had to take in the bids for the band. So I have that all set to go in front of the select board's next meeting with David Eisenthal. And so, I mean, for me right now, I'm actually surprised and shocked that I've been able to keep up and do what I'm doing. And I've been going to a lot of meetings too with Nate and Jennifer. I'm sitting on a lot of the capital things. So I think it's more Susan's department right now because of her retiring that is going to be more, I think, of the problem.
And I was going to ask, Sue, your department, is there, because I mean, if we had, thrown around the idea of potentially having a shared assistant, there are certain times of the year that are way more busy, I believe, and totally correct me if I'm wrong, but there are some times of the year that are just extremely busy in your department versus other times of the year based on, you know, what bills are going out and things like that. Is that a correct assessment?
It is a correct assessment, and quite honestly, we've timed it uh, pretty well because um, probably after the second week of September through probably mid-October, that is typically when Kim and I would do housekeeping items. You know, we'd request destruction of records through the Secretary of State's office. And I would do the A to 58s for uncollectibles. I would do, you know, the various things that were just housekeeping because you don't have time the rest of the year. Because the rest of the year, you are either issuing a bill or collecting a bill every single month. So, yeah, it's, you know, it's a lot. And, you know, I mean, we're still doing the water and sewer billing. And it's a lot of work.
So can't that go back to DPW? You just made that point that you had picked up, and I remember when that change happened. But is that something that we could look to send back to DPW to play a larger role there?
I imagine you could. That was actually when it was originally not in the collector's office. It was May Mazet, who ended up just being a water department employee, a full-time water department employee. She issued the bills. She issued abatements and that type of thing. But my office always collected them.
Mhm.
But again, you need to, you're looking at hiring another person down at the DPW. You know, they're stretched pretty thin down there. So, you know, and I thought of that because honestly, I asked Kim if she would please come back to upload the September read file so that we can get bills out timely in November. Because Kim honestly took the water and sewer billing by the horns and did it all. And so, you know, I'm going to need some instruction on that as well. And I mean, it's not a big deal, but I did say to Scott, maybe Jennifer or Beth in the water department want to sit in on this because, you know, if things break down to a point where, you know, you're scraping by with somebody who is new, maybe Jennifer or Beth want to take the billing so that the water, at least the enterprise funds, are still getting bills out the door. And I mean, I will have the February 1st bills out the door the last week of December. But again, then you have, you know, excise coming right away, another water bill. So it's a constant cycle. And you just need to be on top of it. So I don't know what will work best, Molly, but
What does the state require? They require someone to actually hold the treasurer's position and someone to actually hold a collector's position, correct? With that title.
you can combine them.
Right. But there has to be someone that holds those titles officially, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So again, just going back to from a practical standpoint, if we clearly have to hire somebody, right?
Yeah.
And if the position was posted as an assistant collector that we're hiring, we would pretty quickly know if there's anybody, and completely hear what you're saying, Sue. I mean, taking somebody who has a decent resume that maybe could learn it, you know, we don't necessarily have that luxury, right? If we go that route, well, we'd want to try to find somebody who has some amount of experience, and, you know, a strong interest in the municipal finance field. And then we could determine whether or not we can, you know, add on to that or not. I mean, could we get away with a combined treasurer collector and one assistant treasurer collector? Or, you know, like I said before, do we need to have kind of 2 assistant level positions? And if we go that route, can we be flexible so that if we did hire 2, that individual could perhaps do other things to benefit town hall, whether that's procurement or helping with the budget or whatever else that might be. I'm just worried about putting a stake in the ground right now on all these positions when we're talking about the possibility of streamlining, because I don't want to put us in the same situation that we had before, which is our only avenue down the road may be to lay people off. So I certainly wouldn't want to be disingenuous in the hiring process. But I also appreciate the fact that we've got this probably 6-month period where it's going to be a really heavy lift no matter what.
If I'll jump in. I think, you know, I've spoken with Sue and Dee Dee. You know, I also spoke with Amherst, and they like the idea. Sean Mangano, the finance director, and I think Jennifer would agree. They like the idea of combining it, Molly, like you said, from the management perspective. And so then it's really the support for that position. And so having the one person be the collector or treasurer, they see that as really beneficial, and then providing it enough support to manage. You know, in Dee Dee's defense, she is a treasurer. She's taken the training. She's also familiar with the collector position, and she does have time with Sue to learn. And so, I think it is a learning curve, but I think there's, capable staff here to share with each other for the next few months. And so, I think to me, if we advertise for an assistant treasurer collector, we can, I think, Molly, where you're going is right. You can see where the applicant pool is and where we are. We haven't limited ourselves to what the department structure may be. It's really trying to get someone in to fill the vacancies we have now. And there still could be opportunities for future changes. But, my understanding is that, from a management perspective, like I said, Amherst really like the idea of combining them and just providing the right level of support to make sure that everything can function. Belchertown seems to manage, and as does Deerfield and some other communities here. I haven't reached out to them. Jennifer and I said that's kind of the next step would be to see, what they think.
And if I can add in, I think that right now is sort of the moment with the transitions that are happening in these 2 departments. This is the moment for us to explore this without anyone losing their job or having to, lay someone off or anything like that, because Kim has unfortunately left us and Linda has retired, which means we have this moment in time right now to see if this will work. And we still have Sue in place with her, depth of knowledge and collections. We have Dee Dee with her training, with Linda still as a supporting role. So I think this is an opportunity to do that. So I would like it if y'all would consider advertising for the assistant collector treasurer combined position for right now and seeing what that looks like. We still have the money in the schedule if we need to turn that person into just the assistant collector or just the assistant treasurer. If there's still time to sort of unring the bell, if that's not working, but we have a little time right now to do that. So I would like to go ahead and look at that.
Sorry, could we, perhaps, I had spoken to Nate and mentioned the possibility of having, like Gage Spanknavel, who's he's working on his master's in public administration, coming into my office and working maybe 20 hours a week just so we have somebody in the office for the short term. I don't care if we call them a temporary employee or whatever until we hire somebody. But at that point, we'll have somebody who knows, you know, what needs to happen with the collections, what needs to be entered, what needs to, you know, the basics. I wouldn't name him, you know, assistant collector, but he's interested in that. You know, my thought is I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. My door will be closed from the 13th to the 29th of September. That's never happened before. And I'm afraid you will really have some folks not happy about that.
So, a question about that, right? So, smaller towns that have one person, you know, maybe out in the Berkshires, hill towns, whatever,
Yeah.
that have one person as the collector, and you know they go on maternity or paternity leave or whatever, or a couple weeks for vacation. Is there a requirement to have somebody with the title of a collector or assistant collector there, or do they just close? Do they just hand off the duties to someone other? Or I guess, how do they handle it?
Well, I mean, what has happened here when Kim and I have been like at annual school or at a conference, Jess will collect payments for us, or they go into the Dropbox. There won't be any, you know, any entries. There won't be any deposits done. And that's fine. I can catch up on that when I get back. But, you know, I just worry about, and yes, I can do, you know, I can change my phone message to say I'm on vacation for 2 weeks, and I can do the out of office response saying, you know, I'm checking my email and hopefully I can get back to you. Because I've always checked my email and done that on vacation, and I don't mind doing some work, but yeah, it's the beach. So, you know, well, Linda.
Are you calling on me, Susan?
Saying hello.
May I?
Yeah, go for it.
I think there's a couple of different kinds of places where treasurer collector combined works. One is the very small towns. There are towns where treasurer or collector hours they're part-time. They're part-time hours. The offices are open 9 to 1, 4 days a week or something. So if you're going to combine the treasurer and collector in that kind of a town, that's good. Maybe you have the full coverage of someone who knows both positions, because neither of them is a full-time job and they may not even have an assistant. The other kind of town is the one that Nate's describing, like Amherst, and the towns that have a finance director. So then they've got someone handling the budget, the audit, the capital planning and all that. So then the treasurer and the collector are doing, or at least the treasurer is, I don't want to say lower level, but they're doing a different level of work than what I was doing the last few years. They're just doing the treasurer. So if you're going to make that a lesser job than we have had it in Hadley the last few years, maybe that person has time to be the collector as well. But it definitely, if they're going to be combined at that level, you need a full-time assistant at the other two. You're talking about taking what were 4 positions and making them 2, not 4 positions and making them 3. You're going to make them 3. The half times, the shared ones should not be the assistants. That's sort of just the inverse of what you're trying to do when you save money. You're trying to save money in the upper positions, not the lower ones. You should be providing more support. So, I mean, if you were going to combine the two, I would say, I think going at halftime, doing a combined assistant for both right now is not a good idea. Joan and I shared someone doing both payroll and assistant treasurer, going back and forth across the hall, and we were on the same floor, and it was extremely difficult. Everybody has a talent more one way than the other, or an interest more one way or the other, or one, they'd rather spend more time on one, or it's more fun than the other part of the job. It's very difficult to share. So if you're thinking about combining the treasurer collector, I don't think that should stop you from hiring a full-time assistant for both of them at this time. And the other thing I want to say is that Susan mentioned about the collector. I mean, that Dee Dee does not have the background in collecting, which technically is true at this point, but she does have quite a bit of the background in treasuring. There was a time, and it was only 8 years ago, where at each election, you could have had somebody coming into either of our two spots knowing nothing at all. And the system was set up so that you could sit down and learn it and get up to speed. But they were full-time. Now you're asking Dee Dee, who already has a full-time job, to now get herself up to speed in another full-time job, which is similar to what you've just done with eliminating the HR department. I mean, how many cuts are you going to do in town hall and just assume and just try and get everybody else to fill in? We have not been through one budget season with this crew. Susan will remember 2 years ago, we had a serious finance team starting at the beginning of each budget season. Between her, Susan, Dan, and me, the number of years of experience and sitting down and figuring out the revenues and where we were going to go with the budgets, it was extremely valuable. And then you add in the town administrator and what's now the assistant town administrator, and then we also had the HR director. That's 6 people that we had on a finance team. Now we've lost we've lost 3, and we're losing 1 more of those people. And the people who are there are the ones without that depth of experience. I'll tell you who has that depth of experience is Dee Dee. She has been there. If I were up there still trying to figure out what to do with people on the 2nd floor of town hall, I would say I'd rather start seeing Dee Dee work in and doing the support in the budgeting and in the auditing and things like that, because it's easier for her to step into those, because it also involves the accountant who she works with regularly. She works all the time with the town administrator. I'm going in and assisting her. But instead of that, you're saying, how about she takes on collector? Now what are you going to do when you find out you're way over your head in the budget in the middle of January? You know how many budgets I did last year. It's not just doing one budget. It's what if we need an override? What if this doesn't pass? What if, all these different possibilities. If I were you, I would be putting Dee Dee on deck for stepping in at that level instead of learning a whole new position on a whole different floor. And I know, like Susan says, you're going to do what you want to do, but I've sat in there for many years, and I'm a little sorry with the way this has been going.
Okay.
I'm going to call on myself.
Go for it.
I was waiting on you, Sue. I was waiting on you. But I guess you said you were going to reach out to some of these other towns and see how the logistics work. Is this something that we can reach out to similar sized towns and towns with, the same types of collections, like we have the commercial and all that kind of stuff that some towns won't have, and see what the ratio would be of, okay, we have one person, let's say we had one person holding collector title or treasurer position. How many assistants, full-time, part-time, whatever is required to make that work in their town? And then, at least we can go from there and say, okay, it makes financial sense to do this, or maybe it doesn't make financial sense to do this because we'd have to hire too many lower level or lower paid employees to make it happen. But I think that would be the start, I guess you could say.
Absolutely. So I'll just let you know, I've been, Nate and I've both been doing research just on a list that I've put together of the towns that are in our range. So I'm going to say from 5,000 to 10,000, there's 7 towns just so far that have combined treasurer collectors. So I feel like that is our range, is 5,000 to 10,000 people. So we're going to reach out to them and see what they're doing. And I'm hoping that we can look at, I see your finger. I'm going to finish talking first though. I think that reaching out to our neighbors that are doing it would be very beneficial, just to see what they have happening there. I think that's going to be probably one of the first places we'd look, because also it might be that we can ask if Dee Dee and Susan can go over there and see how it's working. I think that would be beneficial as well.
So just one thing. So you found 7 towns. Do any of them have the commercial that we have? Because that's typically the difference. What I found was most people were comparing us to a West Springfield. Now,
Nope.
granted, population was higher. However, the commercial is very similar. So, you know, there's so many differences, Jennifer. I don't know.
I'm aware of the difference between Hadley and other towns. I mean, you know, just looking across the list, you know, Montague is on there, 8,500 people. Southampton, Great Barrington, which I would say is pretty comparable because they have a pretty, I think, busy little district there. Sterling, Southborough has 10,000. So there are comparables. And nobody said that it's going to be one for one. I think that we don't know until we actually start digging into it with them. But I know that this position is open. I know that you want help. I know that Dee Dee would like help. So that's why Nate and I thought it was time to bring this out and start having this conversation fully, because I would like the select board to authorize the hiring of the assistant collector treasurer position. I don't want to hire somebody as solely the assistant treasurer or solely the assistant collector, and then them not be able to have the skills to combine if that's how we move forward. It's much easier to separate a position with someone and have them move to one or the other if that's what we end up doing.
I have no problem at all moving forward, posting for and interviewing for an assistant treasurer collector. I think, you know, in the interview process, and actually, hopefully anybody who's a candidate is going to be listening to some of these discussions anyway. If it's possible to make sure they understand that there may be some fluidity, if I can put it that way, in the role as things evolve. I don't want to presuppose where Dee Dee's going to be at in a few months. I think, you know, it's great. You know, I'm really glad to hear what Dee Dee said today about feeling comfortable in the treasurer's role thus far. Personally, I think that Dee Dee would be a great, you know, combined treasurer collector. But again, I want to be fair to Dee Dee because she's so new. And in fairness to the taxpayers, again, I want to be really careful that we don't box ourselves in. And what I'm wondering out now is, and Nate, maybe this is a question for you, that, you know, there's 351 municipalities that are doing this, right? So would it be possible to see if we might be able to get somebody in from Northampton, East Hampton, Amherst, Deerfield, you know, South Hadley, even to just kind of help us think through how we work? You know, if there are opportunities for automation, you know, adoption of technology, the physical mailing of the bills that go out. I mean, all that kind of stuff. So we could get a little bit more information about the efficiency side of this sooner rather than later. Because again, I don't want to hire somebody, even if it's on a part-time basis, and then turn around and say, sorry, we don't need you anymore. So could we run kind of parallel tracks on that?
I think as long as in the advertising and the interview process, we make it clear that, hey, you may be interviewing for a combined position, but by the time you come on board, you could be one or the other. And to make sure that some, you know, the people we're talking to have that experience, because, you know, maybe we find out after exploring this that this is craziness, and then we can go back to what we had. but I don't think it hurts to explore it until we can get some more.
You're also gonna have to run it by the union, because those are union positions.
Yeah, I'll be talking to Roger about that.
Okay, so in this conversation we've been having, the assumption is that if we have a combined treasurer collector, that it would be Dee Dee, but I have not heard anybody say, Dee Dee, are you interested in this?
I'm always up for something, as I've been told over and over. I wear many hats. I still am actually kind of helping in the building department, because of course they don't really have anybody down there. So people come up and still ask me the questions. I mean, I'm up for anything. I like a challenge. And actually, Nate and I have been working, actually the department head meeting, because we've been speaking with Lori too. And a lot of our warrant process, things like that, we're trying to minimize a lot of work that really shouldn't be taking up so much of our time. Because if every other department, did their turnovers a certain way, or their warrants, that would help, well, my position and actually Lori's too. So, I mean, I've been working very closely with Lori also. And actually, Linda just came by the first time this week, and I've been trying to problem solve everything before I've reached out to her, because I don't want to really bother her. But what I do is I just look back at what I've known of doing the month prior, or things that Linda has said. I've always picked up and listened to things when she was in here. So that's helped me quite a bit. And she was a good teacher for me. So that's why, I don't know, I thought at first when I took on this position, I'd feel so much stress and overwhelmed, but I actually don't. And I don't know why, but I don't know, things seem to be going smoothly for me. It's just that it would be nice to have somebody to input some stuff in for me. But other than that.
So with that being said, I would agree with what Molly and David have said, in that we could try to hire an assistant treasurer collector and see where the road takes them and us. See if we can get this thing figured out.
So just to clarify, we're not talking about hiring or merging the treasurer with the collector, just the assistant right now. Is that, just so I'm on the same page? Is that?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. No, I think that's a good way to start for now, and just see how that goes. So I would be up for entertaining that.
Can I get a motion?
The other thing I'd like to suggest is just if there's any interim help that's needed, I don't think the select board needs to be talking about that. I think that's something that can be delegated to Jennifer and Nate to work out.
Sure, thanks, Molly. I was going to jump in. I think, Linda mentioned also like the actual physical space, and there is an ability to move offices. And so, if things need to, just for efficiencies and just for, ease of working, there are ways to, change, who sits where and how things work. So to me, that's something that, is also being discussed. I was gonna say with the assistant, treasurer collector, right? It may be, that the applicant pool, helps us decide one way or the other, right? And so we may have to have another meeting where we make a decision and we change course a little bit. So I'd want to see what is out there, and who's out there. I'll be optimistic and think we can make it work. It seems like a number of towns do agree that some decisions in different positions, towns do them differently. So Jennifer, I've thought about, some communities have a budget analyst or someone other than a finance director who works with the town administrator's office to help with budgeting and procurement and some HR pieces. And so that's also something that we've been discussing. Could there be a position there so it's not, so reliant on, say, a finance director? Again, given how these size and what it is, I'm not sure is a finance director position necessary right now? Maybe it will be, but where we are with the budget is not, doesn't allow that necessarily to have a different position that then has oversight over all these different financial departments. And Molly, to your point, yeah, we can look out. I think they're going to be parallel tracks and see what's best, and we can learn from the other communities that are doing it, and see what what they have to offer.
Okay. So we still need a motion.
I think Linda had a question. Linda Sanderson.
Oh, go ahead.
Nate's alluding to a missing spot in there, and that's really exactly what I was talking about, Nate. That I actually just looked up Great Barrington, who has a finance coordinator, and I looked up or a director, and the other one, South Hadley, they have a finance director. So when you do this investigation into how it works in these other towns, don't miss that part, because you do have somebody in charge of helping the town administrator do the budget. And that's really what I was getting at, that if you're going to if you're talking about hiring another person, I agree, it does not have to be a full-fledged, a highly paid finance director. At this point, it doesn't make sense with our budgeting. However, if you're talking about hiring another person to handle the monies, and then that's basically what I'm talking about. You've got the treasurer right there down the hall, and I would slide her in that direction as opposed to into collections. So that's the only point I was trying to make there. But I think you're going to need some help, Nate.
All right. Can I get a motion on, because I think you're looking for a motion, Jennifer, to move forward with that.
Would, and I'd also ask if you would, we never really discuss who makes up a hiring committee, but I would like Dee Dee and Susan both on it. And then Nate and myself, and I would like a select board members. Just because of the fact that, or maybe the select board member is too much, but I think that it would be good to make sure that we're kind of going into this as thoughtfully as possible.
Yeah, I don't think we need a select board member, Jennifer.
No? Okay.
Yeah.
Overkill?
I mean, that's my opinion. If the other select board feels differently.
Fine.
Yeah. Okay, then I'll make a motion that we move forward with the hiring of an assistant treasurer collector and delegate the authority to do that to Nate and Jennifer with whomever they want to help.
I will second.
All right. Motion by Molly, seconded by Jason. Is there any further discussion on this? Roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote. Phil,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Parsons,
Yes.
Iser,
Yes.
and Costick.
Yes.
Thank you.
So the next portion is discussing the administrative assistant for the town administration office. Are you looking for a similar vote from us on that? Do you want to
Yes.
talk about a little bit more?
This is a position that Carolyn actually brought to y'all forever ago about the need for it, and then never felt like she could actually hire for it. So this position's been created for a while, and I think technically y'all approved it a long time ago, but it's never been filled. And we've cut the funding for it and put a little back and cut it back and forth over and over again. But this year it's in the budget because we need someone to take over the administrative task with me doing the HR roles. So I'm just asking y'all to officially again to allow us to go out to fill this position. I did attach a job description for y'all. It has not been finalized, but Nate and I have both reviewed it and edited and given feedback to each other on it. So I would ask that y'all would let us go out and start hiring for this as well.
Is this a shared administrative position potentially? I thought that's what we talked about in the budget process.
Shared as in shared with other departments in town other than just the town administrator's office.
Yeah.
The possibility of them moving to other departments and filling in as needed is completely there. We don't know what that would look like yet. And I worry we're going to have to talk to the union about this because just by default, any position that's within the town administrator select board office is going to be a confidential employee, which means they're not going to be allowed in the union in all likelihood, just because of the executive session materials that flow across their desk. So then having them move to other departments and do what would be union work, I'm not quite certain how that works. So it would be a discussion with the municipal union and their representation. But yes, in theory, the thought was that this position would be able to do some floating in between, helping to cover holidays and things like that.
Is this, so this is fully in our current budget?
Correct.
All right, I'll make a motion to authorize Nate and Jennifer to advertise the administrator assistant for the town administrator's office.
I'll second.
Okay, and we're doing this with the
All
understanding
right,
that,
motion, David.
who's that?
I was gonna say motion by David, seconded by Jason.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I just want to make sure that we're all clear that if there is bandwidth, time available, whatever you want to call it, that this person, and it's possible that they can be shared in other places in town hall, that is an option.
That is completely the plan. I want to be very honest with y'all. So right now, Nate and I are sharing the administrative duties. And I'm still doing everything that I did full time before I took on HR full time. So I think that between the two of us, we're going to fill up the most of this person's day very quickly. And it might also be that they take some procurement, which Molly had sort of alluded to earlier about another position, possibly doing the procurement, and also maybe doing some of the invoicing that we have to do for HR. So we're going to fill the person's day very quickly. But I think with all of our positions, we have to be able to flex and move between departments to a certain extent. Like, I'm definitely not taking the bands, and I'm definitely not trying to be the collector, but I think we all can have a little bit more flow with them.
So you're looking at this person as a
Breaking up on us, Amy.
employee, or are you looking at full 40? Sorry, can you
That's
hear?
better.
Okay.
Well, it was.
Just-
No good.
No,
No good, Amy.
Jennifer, I think she was asking about the full-time status. So it is a full-time position.
Correct, it is.
Is it full 40 hours?
37 and a half is full time. It's what we've been trying to do for people full time.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
we're still in the discussion part. I just want to emphasize what Randy said, and I think it goes to the discussion we just had with the treasurer collector, right? It's not going to be necessarily ideal, and I think we understand that there's a certain amount of handoff that has to happen, but I continue to be hopeful that things like meeting minutes could be streamlined through use of AI, and there are other tools out there as we come up to speed on the HR software that we're implementing. So as long as there's a strong understanding that we may want to use the individual skill sets to bolster resources elsewhere in town hall, then I will vote with that in mind.
Absolutely understood.
yep.
All right. Can I get a roll call vote then?
Roll call vote: Phil,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Parsons,
Yes.
Iser,
Yes.
and Costick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So the next order line item of business is the building commissioner. Do you want to take that, Nate?
I think there's two things. One is, there is we're interviewing candidates. And so there wasn't a big applicant pool, but there was enough to have, interviews, at least one interview so far. I think, part of this discussion was the budget. So when the FY, I don't know if it was which budget cycle it was in, the salary for this position was reduced, thinking it could be a part-time position, given the other staff in the department with a, with an inspector. And really, Hadley does need a full-time building commissioner, and they can also then go out on inspections. But really, some communities will call them a building commissioner, others will call them an inspector / code enforcement officer. But really, we need a full-time position. Right now in the budget, there isn't enough funding for this fiscal year to cover a full-time position. So, Dave Waskevitz has been covering it part-time, but there was never money in the budget to hire a building commissioner at the salary that that position needs. And so, part of the discussion would be, moving forward with, recommending a budget transfer this year at fall town meeting to put more money in that position line. Otherwise, we're really, we'd need to hire a part-time building commissioner for the rest of this fiscal year and then try to make it full-time next year. And I really think it needs to be a full-time position. I also think the department does need a part-time inspector and administrative support. So, moving forward, that budget for next fiscal year, that department's structure might change a little bit, just in terms of, where the hours are allocated between positions. But we really need, a full-time commissioner to come on board as soon as possible.
I guess what's the salary of the building commissioner and how much are we short in the budget?
So right now, the building commissioner's salary is $62,640. There is money for an admin position, but that admin position is right now vacant. We have somebody who's in there taking voicemails, doing voicemails, and she'll accept plans, but it's very minimal. And then we have 71,000 for inspectors and alternates. That includes your plumbing inspector, your electrical inspector, and then the assistant building inspector. So we could reallocate funds within that department right now to get us where we need to be. But as Nate had said, our needs that need to be filled right now, which is a full-time building commissioner,
Right.
and I would say some part-time, consistent part-time administrative support in that office.
I mean, I would like to see somebody full-time in that office. I mean, it's a big money maker for the town, and having, not having somebody there full-time is hurting us.
So you said we would like to get a commissioner in as soon as possible. If we have to wait till fall town meeting to transfer this money, we can't hire till then, correct?
Well, as I said before, we can shift the money in the salary lines right now. That is, there's salary money there. It's just apportioned to a different position. But we would like to go ahead and get that increased now so that we can go ahead and get them the support that they need as well.
I'm not against that as long as the money's there and we can accomplish all these needs you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's happened with the building department, there's been, like other departments, a number of vacancies and kind of some unfilled roles, and I don't think it's actually been fully staffed for a while in terms of what is really necessary. And so, unfortunately, with Dave coming in before hours and after hours, there's a lot of time spent just relaying messages and making phone calls and follow up. Where if someone's full time in the office and we have more consistent administrative support, I think the department will function a lot more efficiently. An exponential increase in efficiencies there. It isn't happening right now. Given the way everyone's working a different schedule and no one's really overlapping. So I do think there'll be a big improvement if we can get someone in here full time, especially as a building commissioner.
I mean, we have to. This is the one of the biggest departments in town hall that consistently generate revenue for the town.
Yeah.
So it's there's a return on this investment.
Definitely.
What kind of a motion do you need on this one, Jennifer?
Yeah. I'm not actually certain. I'm going to yield to Nate on that because, I mean, like I said, the money's in the salary lines right now, which is why I went ahead and posted it out to bid because we can just do some adjusting, if you will. But Nate, what do you think that we need?
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much as a motion or something. I think it was more, bring it to your attention of what the department looks like. And so that, if we move forward without any allocation at fall town meeting or at some point, there would be continued to be, say other part-time support in that department when really it might need, more hours. And so that's all. It's not, I don't think there's anything to do right now. It's just kind of letting the select board and everyone know that's kind of the, where that office is. And, I agree with David. It can be a money maker and it's really important. It flows through to the assessor and everyone else. So, we might not even know right what's being missed. And so I think it's, we want to make sure we have everyone, like we said, even if it's part-time administrative support, having consistent hours, whether it's office hours or they're open, the same time every day for the public and contractors to know, we're not right now. It's difficult to maintain kind of some service level there. Like I said, with everyone with very little overlap and people there.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. What anybody said, the department is extremely important and we are losing money on a daily basis, I'm sure. So we need to get it up to snuff and fill the positions that we need.
So I guess if anything, I'll make a motion that we have the intention of backfilling the salary at fall town meeting. In the meantime, we will shift salary lines to cover the full-time building commissioner. And I think we just need to make it clear to whoever we hire that this is obviously subject to funding, because if town meeting says no on this, then we'll be in, we can't.
All right.
Roll call vote, Phil,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Parsons,
Yes.
Iser,
Yes,
and Caustic.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see.
Um, there- there's just one last
Sorry.
thing on there is that y'all accept a resignation.
From Nathan Rabideau. 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 Okay.
I'm not quite certain.
Effective 2 days ago.
Correct.
what is this person resigning from?
He is resigning from the Hadley Police Department. He was a part-time officer and then he was a TCO, and he got offered a position closer to his home. So he quit effective immediately.
Nice.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of part-time police officer Nathan Rabideau effective August 24th, 2026.
Second.
All right. Motion by David, seconded by Randy. Roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote, Phil,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Parsons,
Yes.
Iser,
Yes,
and Caustic.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. 5.0 announcements. Are there any announcements?
I'll just make,
Go ahead.
sorry, Jason. The Bay Road Bridge, Fort River Bridge, was closed yesterday evening. It'll be closed tonight, and there may be a third evening closure. There were some delays with the work last night. It's not for certain that it will be closed, but Mass DOT has said that it may be, and so it really is dependent on how much work they can get done tonight. I just wanted to make that announcement so everyone hears. They're handling all the signage and everything else. But there was some delays.
I just want to remind everybody that tomorrow and Friday are the last days you can vote here at Town Hall for the state primary. You can go see Jess in the town clerk's office from 9:30 to 2:30. And then, of course, state primary is this coming Tuesday at the senior center in the big community room from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's it.
And I would like to remind everybody that we're still accepting applications for Citizens Academy starting on September 24th. And that Nate and I will be at the Senior Center on Friday morning at 9:30 for the morning show. So if residents have questions or concerns, they want to come and share them with us, or just stop in and say hello, we'll be there and we'd like to see you.
No special guests this week?
You told us no, so, if Randy can't come, what's the point?
Well, I wasn't there when you asked me, so.
We're hoping that eventually all of y'all will want to join in and come on over.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Motion by David, seconded by Jason. We'll see everyone next week. Roll call vote, please, to adjourn the meeting.
Roll call vote, Phil,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Parsons,
Yes.
Iser,
Yes,
and Caustic.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everybody.
good night,
Good
everybody.
night.
Thank you
Good night.
so much.